CES has come and gone over in Las Vegas, and while some handsets are specific to the USA and all are Android and otherwise unremarkable slabs, many are worth a brief mention here, I think. Sony Ericsson has announced the Xperia Arc, a slim and curvy Android 2.3 smartphone with a large 4.2-inch screen with a, quote, reality display. Essentially, this uses hardware tricks borrowed from Sony's Bravia technology and has, quote, enhanced brightness and brilliance. Also notable is that the 8-megapixel camera in the Arc has a back-illuminated sensor, similar to that in the iPhone 4's camera. There's also built-in HDMI, a 1GHz processor and the usual high-end features. There'll be a USA model and a European model. Motorola has announced the Atrix 4G with an NVIDIA Tegra 2 dual-core 1GHz processor. Phew. 1GB of RAM, 16GB internal memory and a micro SD card slot, a 4-inch display at the high 960 by 540 resolution, interestingly. Fingerprint scanning, security and Android 2.2. The only spec let down is the 5-megapixel camera. Intriguingly, the Atrix 4G is also dockable in a laptop dock which has a full keyboard and switches the device into a, quote, webtop mode in which users can enjoy a fuller experience, mainly for web browsing. Also using the Tegra 2 chipset is the LG Optimus 2X, also with a 4-inch WVGA screen and Android 2.2, but with only 8GB of flash memory built in. You do get an 8-megapixel camera, 1080p video capture and HDMI mirroring, which sounds like what the Nokia N8 has been doing for months, but is still welcome. Also from LG is the Optimus Black with an iPhone 4 style IPS display, dubbed, quote, Nova by LG, who claim an extra 40% brightness. Yet again, it's a 4-inch screen and there's the 1GHz processor, but only a 5-megapixel camera and only 2GB of internal storage. Annoyingly, there's a custom LG-designed user interface on top of Android. Interesting here is Wi-Fi Direct, letting phones interact directly at Wi-Fi speeds without needing a Wi-Fi network as host. New from Dell is the Venue with Android 2.2, a 4.1-inch AMOLED display and curved Gorilla Glass, no less. There's an 8-megapixel camera and only a measly gigabyte of flash internally, and it comes in USA and World versions. See later in this show for a rant on innovation and the need for wider pentaband. The largest phone announced at CES is the Samsung Infuse 4G with Android 2.2 and a whopping 4.5-inch Super AMOLED, quote, Plus display. This is getting a little silly, surely. There's a 1.2GHz processor, Samsung's traditional 8-megapixel camera, plus the usual top specs. More on all of these as they roll out to the world through the first half of 2011. I wonder if you remember the arrival of the Nokia N95 in 2007, bringing innovations galore to the phone world. Built-in GPS, 5-megapixel camera, VGA video capture, hardware media controls. It was also one of the first traditional phones to have built-in Wi-Fi. And the 2.6-inch screen was large for its day, funny how that sounds now. All in all, a real groundbreaker. Then the Apple iPhone, of course, also in 2007, taking the clunky touch-driven PDAs of yesteryear and adding the innovations of capacitive touch and a complete rethink of the mobile interface. Since then, we've had 3 years of gradual refinement. Better this, better that, with few real innovations, but I'd argue this has just changed with a number of new hardware technologies now showcased in shipping or near shipping products. How many of these will become commonplace across the phone world, I wonder? For each technology, I'm going to give it an innovation rating, indicating how revolutionary or otherwise I think it is. Announced but not yet shipping are phones based on twin 1GHz processors with the OS, main apps and purpose-built third-party apps able to farm data out across the so-called dual cores. With ever more ambitious media pretensions, it's good to see more speed, though we don't yet know how badly dual cores will hit your phone's battery. There certainly won't be double the drain in most cases, but I have to hope for larger batteries anyway, and a trend away from thin is in. Innovation rating 8. Currently just implemented on Nokia's new Symbian 3 devices, the idea of USB on the go, apparently now a standard, is to let your phone access data and media on USB disks, aka memory sticks. Though many people have also successfully connected USB keyboards, USB mice, FAT32 formatted hard disks, and even USB desk fans and plasma balls in my case. I'm not convinced that many users outside of journalists and real techies will actually need direct memory stick access, though I'll admit it's an interesting technology, waiting on new ways of using it. Nokia has announced digital radio and digital TV accessories that use USB on the go as the means of connection, for example. Now that sounds interesting. Innovation rating 6. Near-field communication is an idea that's been around for a while and even deployed in Japan, but which is now being propelled into the spotlight by Google in its Nexus S and Nokia in its C7, both of which have NFC chips and antennae. The idea is that you put your phone, or slab in this case, the Dell Streak, within an inch or two of a compatible NFC transponder or active terminal, and to exchange information very quickly, typically within a tenth of a second. NFC is an extension of the old RFID tag standard that you'll have heard of. In reader mode, your phone provides a carrier field, and this gets modified by the tag or transponder, transmitting its unique data, say information on a museum piece or a product. In active mode, both your phone and the other device transmit and modify fields, enabling more complex exchanges, say for mobile payment, personal identification, or faster Bluetooth pairing. Innovation rating 10. Several top-end smartphones, such as this HTC HD7 and the Nokia N8 I'm shooting this on, now support the decoding of Dolby Digital Plus surround sound audio when found in a video stream, though its use is little more than a bullet point until we start seeing video capture also recording these extra surround channels, and until we start seeing video downloads routinely coming with Dolby Digital Plus audio. Will this happen eventually? No doubt. Anytime soon? Probably not. But then I'm an old stick in the mud. I don't even own any Blu-ray equipment. Innovation rating 4. Short for Digital Living Network Alliance, DLNA uses the underlying technology of universal plug and play, once championed by Nokia 2 or 3 years ago in the mobile world, to provide media interoperability between top-end phones and home storage and playback equipment. DLNA clients have appeared for many Android smartphones in 2010, and you can also retrofit DLNA compatibility for iPhones. I'm a little skeptical as to how far this can move away from geek demos, though. The idea is you, for example, share your phone's music files over your home Wi-Fi to your DLNA hi-fi system, but wouldn't you get far better quality to just play the original CD or even stream directly from your PC or Mac? DLNA lets you go the other way too, to stream music from your PC or Mac to your phone. But then you'd have to wear headphones to get any kind of quality, because the speakerphones tend to be pretty rubbish. And who wants to wear headphones around your own house? Similar issues apply to movie streaming. Your phone will always have less storage and worse reproduction capabilities than other equipment that's also to hand at home. It's a bit of a solution waiting for a killer use case, if you ask me. Innovation rating 7. Currently limited to selected phones, the Nokia N8, the Motorola XT720, HTC Evo 4G and Droid X in America, plus a number of the CES announced newcomers this week. And the idea is to share 720p video, either captured or previously sideloaded, at full quality to an HDMI compatible TV. It's stunning when it works, and playing back your phone shot video for your family and friends in the living room will have jaws dropping if they can get their heads around what you're actually doing in the first place. Hey, this is new, this is different. And if you remember to bring the HDMI cable adapter with you. I can see HDMI out becoming standard by the end of 2011 on most top phones. It's a logical next step on from capturing 720p video in the first place, which a great many phones can do now. And I'll place a bet on 1080p playback via HDMI being quite common in 2012. Innovation rating 8. Consider the famous Apple iPhone 4 with native display resolution of 960 by 640 on a 3.5-inch screen. I can picture the scene at Apple HQ. Shall we call it HD? What about insanely high res? Nope, it needs a magical name. Retina, it shall be. In truth, this isn't massively high resolution than many Android phones, some up to 854 by 480 pixels, and I think the recent Motorola Atrix is even higher. But it does seem as if the trend is inexorably upwards, for better photo and web page display principally. It's not really innovation as such, though, just evolution, so an innovation rating of only 5. This one's huge, at least for anyone who travels. Currently unique in the smartphone world, all 4 of Nokia's new Symbian 3 smartphone designs are full pentaband 3G phones working on the 850, 900, 1700, 1900 and 2100 megahertz bands. In practice, this means you can travel anywhere in the world, and subject to your SIM being recognised and allowing data roaming, you'll be able to connect at full 3G speeds all on the one device with the same SIM. Squeezing pentaband antennae into their phones does rather demonstrate Nokia's mastery of the art, but I'm sure other manufacturers will follow as soon as they possibly can. I'm betting that Motorola crack pentaband next. Innovation rating 10. After a few years of me ranting about touchscreen phones being useless outdoors because of TFT display tech not being able to compete with natural light, it seems that manufacturers have listened. We've had the iPhone 4's IPS tech, Samsung's Super AMOLED, and now Nokia's anti-reflective and clear black display screens all being eminently useful and usable, and even sunlight, as indeed are the glorious transflective displays in the original iPhone and Sony Ericsson X10, etc. It's just a shame that some manufacturers, I'm looking at you, HTC in part, and mainly Motorola, haven't yet got on board. Traditional TFT displays will be an outright fail in 2011. Take note now if you're an outdoor sort of person. Innovation rating for these new screens, 8. This is implemented on the Samsung Galaxy S, the Samsung Wave, and on the Nokia N8 and its sister devices, all of which now conform to the base specification for Bluetooth 3, though it's not known if they'll also work with Bluetooth 3 HS, high-speed accessories, since we don't have any to try them with yet. In theory, Bluetooth 3 means being able to piggyback data on local Wi-Fi networks for extra speed. But again, until we get compatible routers and firmware, this is all pie in the sky. What is known and useful is that Bluetooth 3 compatible phones can now reliably communicate with multiple Bluetooth devices at the same time, so a headset and a keyboard. Simultaneous connections were a major hassle on previous devices. Expect Bluetooth 3 to be standard across the phone world by the end of 2011. Innovation rating 9. Audio capture quality is often overlooked by reviewers, but it's a bigger deal than many realise. What's the point in shooting 720p video if the soundtrack sounds like it came from a tape recorder in the 1960s? Sony Ericsson, Motorola and Apple use pretty good quality components here, while HTC and LG should on the whole be ashamed. It's been up to Nokia though to again push the boundaries in innovation though, with MEMS microphones, effectively digital microphones on a chip. On the N86 I used to use for shooting this show, and the N8 I am shooting this show on. It's a quantum leap in quality really, equivalent to jumping from cassette to CD audio. Due to the cost of the digital mic components though, I doubt we'll see more than a handful of models from other manufacturers with MEMS mics in 2011. But it doesn't stop me wanting this innovation to gain more traction. Innovation rating 8. Finally, I can't resist demoing this last innovation. Optical zoom in smartphone cameras never really took off, partly because of the bulk needed in the camera unit. Here's my old Samsung G810. That's a pretty chunky phone. That doesn't mean that a little innovation in camera firmware can't give it the best of both worlds. What normally happens when you try zooming while shooting video on your phone is that you get a blocky, pixelated mess like this. In contrast, here I am shot at the same distance on the Nokia N8. Now let's zoom in using the dedicated keys on the phone. Zooming in rather intelligently uses more than just the center of the sensor and thus keeps the full 720p resolution up to 3 times zoom, just as optical zoom would. As far as I know, this is Nokia proprietary technology, but you have to wonder if other manufacturers are even now trying to copy it. Innovation rating 7. Of course, there's more to innovation than hardware. We're seeing some super software innovations in the Android world especially, not least in terms of camera object recognition and augmented reality, voice recognition, plus all manner of integration with cloud services. But with NFC, pentaband, HDMI out, Bluetooth 3, MEMS mics and more all rolling out across phones this year, it's clear that we're about to see another 2007, a year of serious innovation that will see our phones being used for ever smarter, wider ranging activities. Happy New Year.